could be but to the annihilation of each. The age of war was therefore gone. But with the cessation of war, other effects bearing upon the social state soon became apparent. Man was so completely at the mercy of man, each whom he encountered being able, if so willing, to slay him on the instant, that all notions of government by force gradually vanished from political systems and forms of law. It is only by force that vast communities, dispersed through great distances of space, can be kept together. But now there was no longer either the necessity of self-preservation or the pride of aggrandizement to make one state desire the preponderate in population over another. The vril discoverers thus, in the course of a few generations, peacefully split into communities of moderate size. The tribe amongst which I had fallen was limited to 12,000 families. Each tribe occupied a territory sufficient for all its wants, and at stated periods the surplus population departed to seek a realm of its own. There appeared no necessity for any arbitrary selection of these emigrants. There was always a sufficient number who volunteered to depart. These subdivided states, petty if we regard either territory or population, all appertained to one vast general family. They spoke the same language, though the dialects might slightly differ. They intermarried. They maintained the same general laws and customs. And so important a bond between these several communities was the knowledge of vril and the practice of its agencies, that the word avril was synonymous with civilization, and vril-ya, signifying the civilized nations, was the common name by which the communities employing the uses of vril distinguished themselves from such of the Ana as were yet in a state of barbarism. The government of the tribe of vril-ya I am treating of was apparently very complicated, really very simple. It was based upon a principle recognized in theory, though little carried out in practice above ground, namely, that the object of all systems of philosophical thought tends to the attainment of unity, or the ascent through all intervening labyrinths to the simplicity of a single first cause or principle. Thus in politics, even republican writers have agreed that a benevolent autocracy would ensure the best administration, if there were any guarantees for its continuance or against its gradual abuse of the powers accorded to it. This singular community elected therefore a single supreme magistrate styled Tur. He held his office nominally for life, but he could seldom be induced to retain it after the first approach of old age. There was indeed in this society nothing to induce any of its members to covet the cares of office. No honours, no insignia of higher rank were assigned to it. The supreme magistrate was not distinguished from the rest by superior habitation or revenue. On the other hand, the duties awarded to him were marvellously light and easy, requiring no preponderant degree of energy or intelligence. There being no apprehensions of war, there were no armies to maintain. There being no government of force, there was no police to appoint and direct. What we call crime was utterly unknown to the vril-ya, and there were no courts of criminal justice. The rare instances of civil disputes were referred for arbitration to friends chosen by either party, or decided by the council of sages, which will be described later. There were no professional lawyers, and indeed their laws were but amicable conventions, for there was no power to enforce laws against an offender who carried in his staff the power to destroy his judges. There were customs and regulations, to compliance with which for several ages the people had tacitly habituated themselves, or if in any instance an individual felt such compliance hard, he quitted the community and went elsewhere. There was, in fact, quietly established amid this state much the same compact that is found in our private families, in which we virtually say to any independent grown-up member of the family whom we receive to entertain, stay or go, according as our habits and regulations suit or displease you. But though there were no laws, such as we call laws, no race above ground is so law observing. Obedience to the rule adopted by the community has become as much an instinct as if it were implanted by nature. Even in every household, the head of it makes a regulation for its guidance, which is never resisted nor even cavilled at by those who belong to the family. They have a proverb, the pithiness of which is much lost in this paraphrase: no happiness without order, no order without authority, no authority without unity. The mildness of all government among them, civil or domestic, may be signalized by their idiomatic expressions for such terms as illegal or forbidden, namely, it is requested not to do so and so. Poverty among the Ana is as unknown as crime. Not that property is held in common, or that all are equals in the extent of their possessions, or the size and luxury of their habitations; but there being no difference of rank or position between the grades of wealth or the choice of occupations, each pursues his own inclinations without creating envy or vying. Some like a modest, some a more splendid kind of life. Each makes himself happy in his own way. Owing to the absence of competition, and the limit placed on the population, it is difficult for a family to fall into distress. There are no hazardous speculations, no emulators striving for superior wealth and rank. No doubt in each settlement all originally had the same proportions of land dealt out to them, but some, more adventurous than others, had extended their possessions farther into the bordering wilds, or had improved into richer fertility the produce of their fields, or entered into commerce or trade. Thus, necessarily, some had grown richer than others, but none had become absolutely poor, or wanting anything which their tastes desired. If they did so, it was always in their power to migrate, or at the worst to apply without shame and with certainty of aid to the rich, for all the members of the community considered themselves as brothers of one affectionate and united family. More upon this head will be treated of incidentally as my narrative proceeds. The chief care of the supreme magistrate was to communicate with certain active departments charged with the administration of special details. The most important and essential of such details was that connected with the due provision of light. Of this department my host, Apolline, was the chief. Another department, which might be called the foreign, communicated with the neighbouring kindred states, principally for the purpose of ascertaining all new inventions; and to a third department all such inventions and improvements in machinery were committed for trial. Connected with this department was the College of Sages, a college especially favoured by such of the Ana as were widowed and childless, and by the young unmarried females, amongst whom Z was the most active, and, if what we call renown or distinction was a thing acknowledged by this people, which I shall later show it is not, among the more renowned or distinguished. It is by the female professors of this college that those studies which are deemed of least use in practical life as purely speculative philosophy.